High School Graduate Intervention Specialist.
Yes, we do have our graduation intervention specialist here tonight to share some exciting news about our improving graduation rate. And so we'll ask them to come forward, introduce themselves, and they have a PowerPoint which you should have in front of you.
Yeah, I think we did.
Good evening. Thanks for having us tonight. I'm Chuck Silver. I'm from Fordson. This is Chris Miner from Dearborn High and Kareem Naimi from Etzel Ford. And we're graduation intervention specialist. Impressive title, but you might not know what that means. So we're just going to go over a couple things of our duties and some of the things that we do during the school year. And then we have some data for you, and then we'll answer any questions that you may have. So one of the first things that we do is we take a look at students that didn't graduate on time, okay, and take a look at those students and see why didn't they graduate and try to get them the appropriate programs. In some cases, students may need an extra semester or two to graduate at our home schools here. And in some other cases, sometimes we refer them to our adult education to finish off a class or two. And that's a big part of the beginning of the school year for us, and tracking down these students and making sure that they're in the right classes, that they're meeting their graduation requirements. We also check what happened in summer school, make sure that kids had the appropriate classes and that they're enrolled and signed up for the appropriate classes for the fall, because course requests do change if they took classes during the summertime. And a lot of what we do is we analyze data. We take a look at students that are behind in their credits, and if they continue on that path, they're not going to graduate on time. So what we try to do with those students is, number one, identify those students, and we call them off cohort. Then we try to get those students into ASAP program, which is a fancy acronym for night school. Encourage them to take night school, possibly summer school, to try to get back on track, because that's our two main interventions. And then also we have our E2020 classes where students could actually earn more than one credit during a particular class, to try to see if we can get them back on track as quick as possible. We do a lot of monitoring of students' grades, their attendance. We try to develop a relationship with those students, get them into appropriate programs, see if there's tutoring that might make a difference for those students, see if maybe they need to make up tests and kind of stay on them about those things, and to use all the appropriate programs for students to make sure that they're successful. One of the things with some of these students aren't successful, they don't really stand up for themselves, so we'll make the phone calls, we'll kind of track down, what do they need to do, and then also try to get them to become independent, so as they get closer to graduation and prepare for college, that they're going to do those things on their own, to become more of an independent type of person, to make sure that they're successful later on. We do meet regularly with these students. We're almost like we're just another adult keeping an eye on these students. So we're kind of an in-building parent, as Chris calls us. The kids know that we're checking on them. They also know that we're somebody that they could turn to anytime, open door policy for all of us. Having almost like an adult guidance or almost a friend at times, just to kind of bounce some ideas off of and make sure that they feel comfortable doing that. Another thing, we're constantly running back and forth between counselors and administrators and making parent phone calls, dealing with our liaisons, kind of coordinate efforts to make sure that the kids don't fall through the cracks, and try to make sure that they have the support that's needed. And sometimes that's a lot of collaboration among all the different groups, and making sure that language barrier isn't an issue, making sure that they have all the appropriate services and programs in place so that they are successful. And then towards the end of the year, a big thing that we do is we actually audit all the senior transcripts to make sure that they've met the graduation requirements for the school board and for our district. And at that point, see if they should graduate on time, which hopefully they are, and take a look at any seniors that might need a summer school class or two to graduate, and see if we can get them to graduate by August. And if we do have time, we try to do some research, and when we do, to see what other school districts are doing to try to help out these at-risk type of students. So, great.
Chuck shed some light on some of our responsibilities. What I want to share with you now, and I know you have a question that you want to ask us, is it working?
Yes.
All of these things that we're doing in our schools, is it working or not? Meeting students on a regular basis, contacting their parents, working with counselors and teachers, enroll them in ASAP and summer school. So that's why I want to share with you some data here. And I have two reports, the cohort report and the first semester's failures. Now, if you examine these reports there in front of you, I'm sure.
We don't have them.
We don't have
Those reports.
We have a different presentation. Oh.
We'll get those to the board.
Okay, you'll see that it shows the reduction in the number of students who are off cohort. And now remember, our ultimate goal is to increase the on-time graduation rate. So now if you look at these reports, you'll see that there's a reduction in number of students who are off cohort and increase of number of students who are on time to graduate. Also the report, the first one, the cohort report, shows that there's still room for improvement. When I got hired into this position late September, early October, I felt like I need to work more with the seniors because I want them to graduate on time, and that will bring up the graduation rates. But then we struggle to maintain a balance because you can't concentrate only on these seniors. You need also to work with other groups just to make sure that they're not going to be a problem later on. So probably that's something that we need to work on and make sure that we're servicing all of our students. The second set of data is the failure report for the first semester. It's a second sign of progress, by the way. And we have two groups of students. The first group of students are those students who, for some reason, were in danger of failing or losing the entire semester. Students who failed almost all their classes. And they feel frustrated and fell in despair. We stepped in, we meet these kids, we work with them, we show them the resources available, and we guide them to pass or to reduce the number of E's into a more manageable number. Okay, now these students are really happy because at one point they think that that's it, I'm not going to be able to pass. Well, you know what, I'm passing some of my classes. Okay, so they will take this and move on to the next semester, thinking that, you know what, I can make it. I'm going to be able to make it next semester, and I'm going to make up these credits that I lost. The second group of students that we want to talk about are the ones who actually, they goofed off at the beginning. First count marking period, second count marking period. They made some bad choices. They failed classes. So we still work with these kids, and we make sure that these students, they pass all their classes. They start with a couple of E's at the beginning of the semester, and they wind up passing all their classes. So that's a good sign for all of our schools. Before I finish, I just want to share something with you. Now, you might think that we're only working with students who are off cohort, students who need credit to graduate. But honestly, we're working with everybody. Because I'm working with students, and I'm sure my colleagues are doing the same thing. We work with students who are taking honor classes and AP classes. These students are struggling in one class, having problems with a teacher, or even they have problems at home. We step in and we help those students because we want to ensure that they are going to succeed in high school and hopefully in their life.
Can I just ask a quick question? You talked about passing. What is the passing grade?
A passing grade? Well, if they're going to pass, then at least they have to score a 60%.
Okay.
That's a D minus.
D
Like a D minus, exactly.
Thank you.
Probably just like a lot of parents at home, kids will walk into our office and they'll say, well, I just need a 60% to pass. And all three of us will be shaking our head.
No.
Nope, 60% is not good enough.
Not good enough.
We're going to set our bar a lot higher than that. So, at the end, we might have a student that really struggles and gets to a 60, and we might celebrate that success. But I think you'd find if you walk in our office in mid-March, we're probably, giving a kid a lecture who's at a 63% saying, there's no way that's the best you can do. We can definitely get,
If you do that good, you can do better.
Yeah, that's right.
It
So,
takes a lot of effort to get
that's
60%
right.
on the nose.
That's right. That's right. You have to try to get down to 60% sometimes for some of our students. Well, Kareem asked an important question that we'll get back to. Is this working? And this is the second year of the program. So, some people might argue that maybe it's too early, but to maybe evaluate that. But I think that the numbers are very strong, very encouraging. That we could say that absolutely things are going in a fantastically positive direction. And so I just want to highlight a few things about that. The first thing is, even though our overall goal is on-time graduation, kids to graduate in 4 years with what they need to be successful in college, of course we have had in the past and probably will for years in the future have students that don't make it in those 4 years. And but we're very proud of the fact that we catch a lot of those kids. We have had roughly around 40 students that did not graduate on time that we were able to keep either in our building or through our adult education department to make sure that they got their diploma, that they were able to move on, and have still students that are still continuing to work on those things. So we even still have more in the system that are still continuing. And even though that number doesn't always get a lot of play in terms of state attention because they're not technically on-time graduates, I know I can feel comfortable speaking for my colleagues that those are kids that we work very closely with. And I certainly have a lot of pride when I see those kids finish. Those are some of the happiest kids in our district when they get that diploma and they walk out. They really had to fight for some of their diplomas in a lot of cases. But even the main goal, the one that we do get a lot of attention for, and we're seeing just in 1 year's time with this particular program, we saw a 6.5% increase in our 4-year on-time graduation rate as a district. And to put that in context, we have a lot of people that want to repeal certain things about the state curriculum and it's too hard and Algebra 2 and all the troubles it's causing, and yet we seem to be bucking that trend that we're finding ways to get more kids through those programs, and certainly not just the three of us but our buildings as a collaboration, but we're finding ways to make sure that more of our kids are successful despite the fact that the expectations seem to be increasing and becoming more rigorous. In conjunction to that, we've seen a 3.5% decrease in our overall dropout rate. So more kids are making it, less kids are deciding that they don't want it. We're keeping them in the buildings. We're finding ways to get them through, and that's after year one. So when you get a chance to look at the data that Kareem is talking about, you can see that all the way back to our freshman class, the percentage of kids that are falling behind is decreasing and decreasing. We believe that following this path, there's nothing but bright things ahead for us in terms of the progress that we can show, with these dropout rates and this on-time graduation rate. Chuck mentioned earlier about us being in-building parents, and we're finding this to be a challenging but very rewarding job. And our goal is to kind of change the academic culture for our most at-risk kids. Dearborn Public Schools has always been a premier place for education. We've set high standards for our kids. But we know that those kids that struggle sometimes feel detached, and I think it's safe to say that we're starting to change that culture. Kids are starting to understand that there's accountability, that there's help, that there's somebody they can talk to, and even if those things always existed, we're finding new ways to introduce those kids to those ideas, and I think that's been a very beneficial thing for us as well as a district.
It has celebrated the great enhancements we've made in our graduation rates. We've been used as an example. We've been in the media and we've been contacted by other districts to find out about what we're doing because of the work of these gentlemen and the people before them and our 8 steps that we're starting in kindergarten. So something else to celebrate the good job by a lot of people.
Thank you
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.